Welcome to the PHNX Sun Devils post-game show, brought to you by the one and only DraftKings Sportsbook app. It's America's top-rated sportsbook app. Bet just $1 on any NFL team to score a point, and if either team in that game does score a point, you get $100 in free bets when you sign up using that promo code PHNX. Britt, ASU played an ASU football game tonight, and it ended in an ASU way. ASU wins 35-30 final score, but that doesn't even come close to summing up what happened in that horrendous affair.
You pretty much put it the best way I could put it. It was the most ASU game you pretty much could get. That was so stressful, but yes, low tone Capone. Let's freaking go. ASU got that win. I need a drink after that. It's been a crazy day. It's been a super stressful day. And trying to keep track of that game while, also covering volleyball and not losing my shit in front of people was really hard because there were moments in there where it was silent and Jaden Daniels would do something dumb and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then this whole group of people sitting in bleachers turned around and looked at me and I was like, okay, gotta stop. I already get out of here. I gotta get out of here.
Well, once again, Jaden Daniels didn't really show up on the ground until the fourth quarter. And I think that's a game planning thing. You see a lot of NFL teams doing that with the read option, or they did before the read option kind of died. Jaden Daniels doesn't scramble until the fourth quarter now. I guess that's just a thing. It works. There was a lot of room to run when he was able to run. But obviously the stat of the game is Rachaad White. I mean, the man was an absolute monster, 32 carries, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns, while also adding 5 receptions for 53 yards. That man must be so tired. 32 carries. Just that alone.
Not even to mention what he did last week, too.
Exactly.
So he had 202 rushing yards last week. And you actually brought up something that I wanted to touch on because I mentioned it earlier and I tweeted it. And someone replied to me and was like, well, it's really not just, it's not masking it. They're still having issues. But, I tweeted earlier in the game that Rachaad White is essentially helping to continue disguising all of these issues that ASU is having offensively. And I felt like they were more apparent and more evident in tonight's game than in the game against USC. I think this Washington team did a better job at really exploiting the main issues that this team is facing offensively. But Rachaad White has done a phenomenal job, again, for the second week in a row of picking up the slack and really helping to move the ball. I thought Curtis Hodges did a better job this week of stepping up. But really, aside from Rachaad White and Curtis Hodges, I know Ricky Pearsall was targeted and there was an interception on that pass, but I just haven't felt Pearsall had one game. Offensively, though, there hasn't been anyone besides those two guys who really have had glaring games where it's like, that's him. He's the man. He's going to help us get through these hard times. And I really don't even have that feeling about Curtis Hodges, and I don't think I'm the only one, Shane. You probably feel the same way.
No, I mean, there isn't really a guy, and we thought from a standpoint of us talking about this for the whole season, 5 days a week, basically, we really thought that we found the guy that we were going to latch on to in Ricky Pearsall at the start of the year. And then Curtis Hodges stepped up, and then it was Johnny Wilson for a game, and maybe it was a wide receiver star by committee, and it really hasn't turned out to be like that whatsoever. The passing game has pretty much died, which is strange.
And it's not to go without saying. It does need to be mentioned. I'm sure a lot of people already know, but Corey Stevens was getting reps at nose guard because Shannon Foreman was out all week. So that was a big loss for Arizona State, and obviously that was going to affect the entire flow and offensive abilities of the game because it's going to be crucial to make sure that Jaden Daniels has enough time to pass, but I felt that really wasn't the issue in this game. One of the really big penalties that came for the offense was, again, on Kellen Deesh, who we have been talking about his issues with holding and false starts repetitively. It drives me absolutely insane that at this point in the season, he's still having those issues on incredibly imperative plays that they have to get. He sets his team up then for a 3rd and 15, and luckily for them, Arizona State was able to convert their first third down play, or their first third down.
It was their first conversion on third down. First
Yeah,
conversion on
that's what I'm
third
trying to
down with
say.
a swing pass to Rachaad White, of course, who bailed him out. Rachaad White is saving people's jobs for sure. There were so many costly penalties in this game, and that brings me to our pitchfork points onward to victory. What we looked at before the game
Hey, there's that
yesterday.
graphic I was waiting
Yeah.
for.
What we looked at before the game yesterday, and let's see how they did. So our first one was ball security. Okay, one interception, one turnover on the day. They won the turnover battle
2.
2-1. No, only one.
I thought they had a fumble too. No, Arizona State
No,
didn't fumble.
no. No, they didn't lose a fumble. They fumbled, but they didn't lose a fumble. One turnover on the day for ASU, 2 turnovers for Washington. So that, I guess, yeah, sure, they did that, but that was it.
Also,
Yeah,
you
go
can't
ahead.
go without saying Merlin Robertson's pick 6 at the end to kind of seal the deal there was, I thought, a crucial thing for him, especially at this point in the season. We've talked about how he hasn't necessarily had an opportunity to step up and make those big time plays. That was his moment. He saw it, he grabbed it, and that was phenomenal. I love to see that from him.
Yeah, he had a really good game overall. I mean, he was everywhere finally.
He was.
That whole linebacking core. I mean, Darian Butler, every game I have to say his name. He's just incredible. If he gets you in his
Butler,
grasp, you're
yes,
not getting
another
out.
phenomenal game for him. He was just
So
unstoppable.
yeah,
He was able to really get up there and stop them at like behind the line quite a few times tonight. And I
yeah.
also want to mention Kyle Soley because he had a great game too.
Good to have him back for sure. Glad he's okay. Our second key of the game was a clean game, especially being on the road. That did not happen.
No,
Let me pull up these numbers for you. ASU had 9 penalties for 94 yards. Washington had 1 for 3 yards. 1 penalty. 1.
what the fuck? That's all I can say. I am so annoyed by that fact. Like, how at this point in the season have you not cleaned this up? This is something that, okay, like we're past week 9 now. Like, actually, what? We have 2 games left in the season for everybody,
Yeah,
I believe now. So
yeah.
we're at what? At least week 10. You should not still be having these issues. I feel like I have been stuck in a time warp for the last 3 months, repeating myself. In terms of you can't have penalties and they just keep doing it. I feel like it's at this point, why did we even bother to make it a
Yeah.
pitchfork point? Because obviously it's always going to be an issue, and I mean, obviously they're always going to have to overcome it, but we're just going to have to anticipate that they're never going to clean that up, I feel like.
Well, you will look. The only scapegoat I can give this ASU team tonight is they had 2 non-starters on the offensive line, and that was where the brunt of the penalties came from. Especially most of the costly penalties came from. One thing I do want to shout out though, at the start of the game, Willie Hartz. I tweeted this on our PHNX Sun Devils account. He had a costly pass interference, really bad coverage, and he had to obviously play because of Evan Fields not being in there. So he was getting his first start at the corner position. He got picked on early, and then you didn't hear his name called the rest of the game, and that's what you want from a inexperienced corner. You don't want to hear his name called often unless he's making a pick. Or a pass defense. So shout out to him. He played a pretty good game after that rough start. And then here's our third pitchfork point. More third down conversions.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as soon as I saw them finally convert on that 3rd and 15. And they said, hey, and that is Arizona State's first third down conversion of the game. And I said, hey, wasn't that one of our pitchfork points? Yet here we are pretty much like almost at the end of the third quarter. Oh my God.
Well,
Oh my God. And I was just thinking to myself, because Arizona State was still down at that point. And I was like, if Arizona State comes back to win this game, or if they don't, this was a pitchfork point.
Yeah, well, luckily they were able to get 2 more after that. So they were 3 for 12, 25% efficiency on that. But Washington was 4 for 12 in theirs. So not really anything. I think the biggest thing that propelled, well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Washington. They played inspired football on offense. They looked really good. Obviously, they have the best pass defense in the NCAA, and that wasn't helping the really slow passing offense that ASU has right now. But Washington played a really good game, especially with the double quarterback set they have. 2 drives and then go back to Heward, 2 drives and go back to Heward. It's strange, and I get what they're doing, trying to give some experience to the 2 young guys. But at the same time, it was impressive to see them put up so much offense, in part only because of how bad ASU was losing in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And I think that was the biggest thing in that first half. And even in the third quarter, that was really scaring ASU fans. But Washington, before their second to last drive where they ended up scoring, they had 1 yard of offense in the fourth quarter. 1 yard.
Yeah.
And that was in part because ASU's scoring drive to get them within 3. Yeah, to get them
It was
within
like
3.
9 minutes.
9 minutes, like 80 yards. It was beautiful. So we love to see that. And that brings me to the lyric of the game. Na 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 na. What's the lyric of the game? I need a jingle for this. I'm just gonna sing it. Ooh, ooh,
No, no,
ooh.
no.
Lyric of the game. Ooh. The lyric of the game tonight comes from one of my favorite artists. His name is John Waltz. A song called Treadmills. He says, "You've been on my mind, running circles and circles and circles, just running and running and running and running." And that is what Rachaad White did all night. And we would love to see that from this ASU football team. So shout out John Waltz and shout out Rachaad White.
We do. You do love to see that, but it is very concerning that Arizona State's having to rely so heavily on White, especially because if something happens to him,
God, knock on
the
fucking wood.
entire offense is done in terms of like deflated. And that concern really only is going to haunt me for like the next week. Because I think they'll still be all right against Arizona without Rachaad White. I think that they'll be able to step up still.
Shut your mouth. That team.
But
did you see what they did to Utah today? You shut your mouth. That team is playing well. U of A was beating Utah most of that game. I'm terrified of U of A right now.
Listen. I get that they're playing well, but I think that I don't have as much of a concern of them not having Rachaad White against that, because I think that there's enough other things intangibles that play in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I expect Oregon State to be kind of like this game, another sloppy, gross, run, pound the rock game.
Oh my God. So Arizona State won this game, and anyone else who's watching, please feel free to drop a comment and let me know if you feel the same way. I don't feel like I'm celebrating a win. I feel so like stressed right now. I feel like I lost somehow, but like I don't. That's not the right word. I gotta like figure out what I'm trying to formulate, but like I don't know.
I do.
I just don't feel like I'm celebrating a win.
I feel good about this game because it wasn't. I mean, a lot of it was self-inflicted harm and self-destruction by the Sun Devils in that first half. A couple touchdowns called back, couple big shot plays called back. But at the end of the day, this Washington team on paper is talented, and they played like they should be playing for that first half. And then they kind of came back down to earth and realized that what their record is probably where they should be right now, just because of how everything's been going, interim coach and all that. But this was a true gut test for ASU when it comes to going down 14-0. This team could have easily hung their hats and put their heads down and given up, because we've seen them do that before. Reference Washington State. That's not what happened. They were in a hostile environment and they said, "Fuck that. This isn't happening again." And they really did come together. And yeah, Jaden's stats aren't fantastic on the night. And yeah, he missed one throw, but I still have confidence. He was 10 for 16 with only 90 yards and one touchdown, one interception. But still, he's composed. I mean, it speaks volumes how he was able to find open running lanes. 15 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, that touchdown late in the game was massive, and it was a great run. He's so slippery. But I'm not that concerned with Jaden himself. It's just more of the program and everything looming over it for me.
See, I'm not on the same. I'm not in the same boat, Shane. I'm very concerned for the program right now. I'm very concerned for Jaden. I'm very concerned for this entire offense right now. I'm very concerned for Zach Hill, because I feel like really outside of, there's been some questionable play calls. More specifically, when at the very beginning of I don't want to say the very beginning, late first quarter, early second quarter, somewhere in there, they're in like red zone at the 2-yard line, 1st and goal, can't get it in on the first 2, and then they decide on the second 2 downs they're going to throw it. I personally would have ran every time. Washington has one of the worst 100%. Run defenses. I don't know why you try to pass. It's like I just don't understand. I feel like you're already crammed up in there. I just thought it was terrible play calling in that regard, in that sense, and trying to go for it that way. And I don't know if that was on Zach Hill or if that was more of an audible that Jaden Daniels decided to call, but I didn't like it. And then Jaden Daniels decided he was going to drop back like 10 yards before trying to pass the ball, and then decided to keep it and run it back. It was just a mess.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I'm very concerned
I'm so anti throwing the ball when your ground game is running, obviously, as everybody should be. But I'm even more anti
Exactly.
goal line fade. And that goal line fade that they tried on, I think, yeah, 3rd and goal, just horrendous. Just
It was bad.
no.
It was
The
so
goal
bad.
line fade is the lowest percentage play in football, and that was even lower percentage than it could have been. I mean, it was terrible. It's just no, don't run the goal line fade. Just don't do it. I'm anti goal line fade. No.
Yeah, I just wasn't a fan. And so it's hard for me to feel like Arizona State's walking away with this huge win. I mean, you brought up great points. I think it also is huge, like you said, talking about the tenacity of being able to play from being down 14 early and coming back to win it, especially towards the end of the game. Yes, that was huge, but it's really just that there are so many glaring issues that Arizona State has not been able to clean up, and we're at this point in the season and it doesn't seem
Yeah.
like it's going to turn around, and you know things aren't going to get any better. Um,
Well,
you're
Britt,
kind of getting to that point, Shane. You
yeah,
know what I find it. I don't want
yeah.
to put anything else out
I,
there because some people have gotten in
yeah.
trouble for saying things
Well,
that aren't true. But
we know we knew what we had going into this game, Britt. We knew what we were going to see from this ASU team going into this game. We knew what the identity kind of already was for this team and how underperforming and all the noise going around. But the thing that was uncertain, and that was my biggest concern, was has this team not given up, but are they disconnected with not only themselves, the coaching staff, the program? Like, are they just kind of going through the motions? And tonight showed that they're not. Tonight showed that they still want to
yeah,
win games. And that's a silly thing to say. I mean, obviously they want to win games, but it showed that they have this passion that
well,
ASU fans didn't really know that was always there.
I mean, you're not wrong. It sounds silly to say. I mean, like obviously players want to win games, but you can't tell me that the University of Arizona players did not quit on Kevin Sumlin last year and say we don't fucking care. Like
Who
at this
cares?
point, we literally don't care.
Who cares about that? Let's
No,
not
but
talk
like I
about
mean,
Arizona.
it happens in the
Yeah,
past. So you do make a valid point in bringing that up because it sounds funny to have to explain, but
for
you know
sure.
this is something that people have seen before, and I reference that because it's something that
Gotcha.
most people who are watching
Yeah.
this would remember. And so it is a good point. They didn't quit. They did show that they're still able to be in this. They still are mentally focused. They still know that they have that Pac-12 South opportunity, even though they didn't get off to the best start in this game. You do raise a good point with that, and I didn't necessarily take that into consideration. So yeah.
Yeah. This is also something. So about the play calling, some of it was questionable. There were some flashes of good things. In the first half, down 14-0. The composure, not only by the coaching staff, but also the players to say, you know what, we're going to stick to the run game. And that's what kind of sparked Rachaad White's big game is they kept running the ball, even though they were down double
And I did
digits.
like that too.
And that's huge. That's huge to have the confidence in your players to be able to pound the rock when you're down 14, even though it's early in the game, even though it's in the second quarter. It's still something that some coaches shy away from with a talented running game. And yeah, they shied away in goal to go situations tonight, but they didn't shy away when they needed to fight back early in the game. And even though they only got 7, it still helped a huge amount going into the second half.
And you know, actually touching on that is something that I was a little concerned about going into this game because Herm in his press conference on Monday had mentioned, and I brought this up on the show when Bo was on yesterday. You know, he was saying, "Oh well, it's easier to fly to LA than it is to drive to LA," but you know, like you almost have like a DeLorean, like the Mandalorian. You
Yeah.
can just teleport with Rachaad White. So please utilize him. So that was something I was saying, and it was good to see that they didn't necessarily pass the ball as much as I was anticipating. So, I mean, I was not thrilled with the offensive play calling, but I wasn't necessarily disappointed with a lot of the big runs that they had. I don't know. I have a lot of like feelings going both ways. I feel like I'm kind of oscillating between how I should feel. And honestly, I'm going to be honest. The fact that we do the show so immediately after the game gives me absolutely no time to process my feelings, and I'm really bad about that. So sometimes I don't even know how I feel. And I feel like that's actually kind of what's happening right now. I feel like I got a lot of feelings going on.
Well, it's impossible not to have a lot of feelings when you're watching an ASU sporting event. Yeah, Bailey, we talked about that earlier. That was a huge stat. Glaring, obviously, not the first third down conversion was that swing pass to
Yeah.
Rachaad White with 9:30 to go in the game. One stat I do want to bring up, speaking of Rachaad White, I haven't given the offensive total yards yet. Washington had a total yardage of 266. Arizona State had 376. Rachaad White had 237 of ASU's 376 all-purpose yards. He was a leading receiver and rusher tonight. So yeah,
I was going to ask how many reception yards he had then, because I know his rushing yards were at like what, 186?
184.
Okay, so he
It's
had
incredible.
quite a few receiving yards. Wow. Okay, so that brings us right back around full circle to our issue of receivers and never knowing who's going to step up. Now, granted, Johnny Wilson was out once again. I don't know what his injury is. I don't know what his status is. They're keeping that very under wraps. All I can say is I know he has not been practicing, so I don't anticipate that he's gonna be out this week either, but that could change. But again, it's like we just haven't seen these receivers that were so explosive last year and were poised to have such a great year, and we've heard so much about them that it just hasn't happened. So
Yeah, that Rachaad White bailout show for the Sun Devils team started early with that. Yeah, that 2nd and 20 early in the game. I think it was a draw play, or maybe it was just an outside zone and shotgun. And he picked up 20 yards like it was nothing. He's going to be he was already Mel Kiper's number 4 running back, I believe, in the NFL draft. I think
you got to move him up.
His draft is skyrocketing, I would say. He's one of the best players in college football right now with how much he's doing with this offense, and it's impressive. You know what else is impressive? The backdoor cover. They like to call a backdoor cover when a team covers a game late and it doesn't affect the outcome of the game. ASU tried to backdoor cover with the pick 6. They were 5.5-point favorites on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And then Washington did their own backdoor cover. So if you had ASU minus 5.5, sorry, that's pain coming out of my throat, like I did on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. I'm sorry for you because they won by 5 points and you didn't cover. But if you want to have pain like this hit your body sometimes when you're betting on sporting events, download that DraftKings Sportsbook app. It's fun sometimes. It's fun most of the time, actually. Even when you lose, I still had a good time watching that. So yeah, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use that promo code PHNX when you sign up. Bet just $1 on any NFL or NBA game. And if you bet on either team to score a point, and either team in that game does score a point, you get $100 in free bets when you use that promo code PHNX this week at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. 21 plus, Arizona only. Gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for more details. Yeah, that one hurt, Britt. I'm not going to lie. That really stung. I was setting up, again, just like what happened with the heave, the half court or 3/4 court heave that ASU basketball lost on. I was setting up for the show, expecting maybe Washington to drive down the field and score with either no time left or nothing happens after that pick 6. I had the TV on and I heard like excitement. I was like, what? And that happened. So that wasn't fun.
Yeah, I was sitting here and I was watching the game and I walked away because I don't know, nobody else knows where I am except you probably, but I am right now sitting on our couch in the green room at our PHNX studios. And so I had just popped out of the glass doors for like 1 second and came back in here and it was like 30, 35 again. And I was like, dog, what?
Yeah, I know. It's painful. Where does this team really go from here now? Britt, you expressed your concerns moving forward. What do you expect to see on the road against Oregon State? 8:30 p.m. kick, by the way, Arizona time.
I'm gonna start crying right now. I don't even want to think about that. It just brings back immediate haunting nightmares because I believe it was an 8 o'clock kick in 2014 when they played Oregon State in Corvallis that year. So it's hard for me to think about this upcoming game and not be traumatized. I'm going to try to think positively, though. I expect it to still be quite a sloppy game, but I do anticipate that, the Sun Devils are still going to try to run the ball more. I think this might sound funny, but I think it's going to kind of depend on the weather forecast, too. And what it's like there. If it's a little bit more wet and rainy, they definitely stick to running the ball, especially after this week. You should have learned your lesson in terms of what Rachaad White can do for you. Just don't take it for granted. But before I give you a 100% answer, I believe I have my stats in my little booklet here still, and I want to reference them. I hope I didn't leave them at home, but I might have.
Good. Well, while you do that, I'm going to give the people some updates.
I left
around
them
the
at home.
That's okay. I'm still going to give some people some updates around the Pac-12. Colorado's up 20-10 at half right now. Washington, Oregon just started 9:30 to go.
What?
No one has scored.
My Pac-12 picks are going to be so wrong this week.
Yeah, I felt like that game was a little bit of a trap game. Obviously, Arizona could have done ASU some favors by pulling off that upset.
Any of that game. So if anyone else is in the same boat as me and has no idea what happened, please feel free to explain a little bit more.
So 38-29 was the final, but that does not tell you what happened in the game. U of A was actually up 14-7 at the end of that first quarter. Blocked punt touchdown for them, and then they were crawling their way back, cut it to 3 with just under 4 minutes to go, I believe, and couldn't do it. Cameron Rising looked pretty damn good again. I am such a big fan of that kid. He's a stud, and he pulled off that win for the Utes. They're now 7-3. Scary, scary team, closing the door on Pac-12 championship hopes for the Sun Devils. Yeah. And
Cameron Rising just brings a whole nother dimension to Utah's offense. I mean, they've always been really gritty. I mean, their pass game has been okay, so, but they've really, lived and died by the run. But now that they have Cameron Rising and his ability to also pass the ball, but he's also so dynamic and can run the ball. He just contributes in so many different ways. I think he's just been really great for Utah's offense. Not so much great for Arizona State in terms of, hey, we have to compete against them in terms of trying to get to the Pac-12 championship. But I think he is very slept on as a quarterback in terms of what he brings to the table and what he offers.
Yeah, he's really stepped up this year. Did you see that Stanford almost beat Florida? Just kidding. That was a school called Samford. Samford from Alabama. I didn't know that was.
I was going to say Stanford played Oregon State today, and they did not almost beat them. Oregon State beat them pretty readily.
But a school called Samford was up against Florida in the third quarter, I believe, and then they ended up coming back down to earth. So that was interesting. I saw that, and I had to do a double take. I've never heard of that school before. Obviously, you talked about Stanford today. They looked awful, and Oregon State looked pretty.
Stanford didn't even start McKee. They started their backup.
35.
But they didn't even announce that until the day. Like, it was pretty much, from my interpretation, a game time decision. I saw that announcement around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and it was announced like an hour previously, and their game kicked off around 3:30, something like that. So.
Low Tone Component has a question, Britt. Can the Buffs upset Utah if all goes in our favor? I don't know.
That's a tall order, Low Tone Component.
I can see it happening.
I love your optimism, Shane, but after watching the buzzer beater have third court,
you're just scarred.
Killer. I have no confidence right now in the fact that the universe won't absolutely just be like, "Hey, ASU. Fuck you."
Well, unfortunately, it is
in
Utah.
It's very hard.
The game's in Utah next week, and it's on a Friday at 2 p.m. So it's a weird time for a weird game. Maybe weird things happen.
I would love for it to. I mean, really, truly, I would, but I'm not going to let my heart and soul become hinged on it. To be 100% honest with you, I probably won't watch it, and I'm going to try not to think about it for the next 7 days until it takes place, and then after that, I'll re-examine.
Well, mention again, ASU gets the win in super ASU style. Well, Rachaad White, the final score, Rachaad White 35, Washington 30, in this weird, bizarre game on this Saturday night. Britt, what happened?
Oh, well, all the lights just turned off on me. It's not working. Now I just look silly for everybody who's watching us on a live stream.
I look silly too.
Hang on.
Oh, look at me. I'm dancing. Where does ASU go from here? What's the next step? What do you think is the most glaring thing that they need to fix before their game against Oregon State next week, before we get out of here, Britt? Any other thoughts?
Well, you clearly cannot fix the ability to clean up penalties with the offensive line, more specifically, false starts, holding, all that stuff. And then you throw in the inexperience on top of that. You're going to have to hope that Foreman's back this week, and that helps you going into Oregon State, because it's going to be a loud environment. It's going to be cold. Arizona State does not play well in Corvallis. So that's definitely going to be one thing. Two, Jane Daniels has got to get going in some way, shape, or form and find some motivation. Now, I want to talk about this more on Monday's show. It relates to basketball, but I want to bring this up because I'm going to pivot this to Jaden Daniels here. UC Riverside, actually more specifically JP Morgan, had an entire conversation with Chris Paul leading up to their trip out here. And when UC Riverside got out here, Chris Paul went and talked to the entire team and motivated them and gave them that uplifting talk that they needed to go out and have their best performance against Arizona State and upset them. Now, I'm hoping somebody can be Chris Paul to JP Morgan is somebody to Jaden Daniels so that he can get that inspiration next week going against Oregon State and play his best game.
Yeah.
Because they're going to need it against this Oregon State team. You know, Oregon State is officially bowl eligible now. That is a huge thing for their team. And they're just really riding that momentum right now at this point in the year. And things look good for them. And also, defense is going to have to stop the run for them.
Yeah, the run defense not impressive again tonight. I think the biggest thing for Jaden right now is confidence. I think that a lot of it's in his own head. Again, we've talked about the lack of experience for being a junior with the lost season and all that. Not many huge games he's had to play in. He always keeps his composure, but has had some pretty bad throws this year. But I think a lot of it, I mean, tonight, I don't agree with people saying he had a bad game. He had one bad throw that was barely off. It was not an egregious overthrow or miss. And other than that, I thought he was fine. He had some mental lapses, staying in the pocket too long and trying to be a hero, a little Carson Wentz ball. But he only threw the ball 16 times tonight, and that's because he didn't need to. I expect to see more shot plays. I mean, one of the greatest things about JD is his arm talent when he's throwing the ball deep. And we haven't seen a Jaden Daniels moon ball in a while.
Well, let me counter you with this because I think people are saying he had a bad game, but I think that there's a lot of frustration. So let me counter with this question to you of do you feel like people are mistaking their frustrations with Jaden Daniels' struggles to perform with saying he had a bad game tonight?
I think people are just expecting more because they were pampered in his first 2 years. As I mentioned before, I think him being such a stud and everyone saying, this guy's a true freshman kind of hurts him a little bit just because there is no next stepping stone that he has to look for. I'm not saying he's not working to that. I just think the expectation's killing him. He's come back down to earth a little bit, and that's okay. He's still a really talented kid, and I still think he's going to have success. Yes, I think he needs to come back for another year before trying out in the NFL because, I mean, he's just frankly doesn't have the body or the arm talent yet. But he's got the legs, he's got the motivation, he's got the composure. I'm not too worried about him. It's a long time that he's gone without having a really, really awesome game, but I'm not that worried.
So I'm not necessarily worried. Mine's more or less just I almost feel like I called this because do you remember at the beginning of the year after we watched the very first game of the season and I said to you, Jaden Daniels, in my opinion, just doesn't look like himself yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's pretty much at this point in the year what I'm still saying. And I don't necessarily look at it as a bad thing. I don't think he's having the season or performing the way that he wants to perform. But he has a newer offensive coordinator. You know, they're changing some things. They're trying some different things. And one of the biggest things with change is it takes time. And sometimes change is ugly. And it doesn't always work right away. But you have to stay committed to the process of growing through that. And so we don't know if that's what he's going through right now. But also, while we're talking about this, it might actually work out in Arizona State's favor for him to have kind of a mediocre year. I mean, Arizona State is not having a terrible year by any means. 7-3 at this point in the year. I don't think that ASU fans would have believed you if you would have told that, at least some of them. Some of them probably would have said, no, we're going to end 12-0. But most of them probably would have not believed you if you said, hey, we're actually 7-3 at this point in the year. They wouldn't have believed you. So this is where we're at. And you're probably going to end up going to a decent bowl game so long as they don't decide to self-impose a bowl ban, which I don't think is going to happen at this point. And I think Jaden Daniels returns. So I think that you're setting yourself up actually for something that could be pretty decent in the long run. I just think it takes some time. And I think it takes a little bit of constant reminder to keep that in the back of your mind as well, you know, that this is actually going to work out to be a good thing.
that only helps if ASU has a single recruit for next year. That is it for.
They do.
I know. I'm
They do. They have a couple.
I know. I'm very aware. That's all for tonight. Thanks for joining us on the PHNX Sun Devils post-game show. Look at what came in the mail.
You got
today.
your shirt.
He's on fire. If you want shirts like this, you can go to the phnxlocker.com. There's a bunch of free stuff or sweet stuff. You can get a free shirt if you get an annual membership at gophnx.com. Become part of the family. It's a good time. You can join the members only Discord. The PHNX Bets Discord was asking for a Bets shirt. So I'm wondering if I could just put my face on a shirt and maybe that'll sell. Who knows? Because I feel like people want to see this on their chest. Do you disagree?
I mean, I feel like we should have we should have our word on the street, like Jeep one, be it.
Yeah.
Or wait, your lyric of the game where your mouth literally looks like you're about to do some very not legal things.
It's so scary. All right, ASU wins this game 35-30, improves to 7-3. They have Oregon State next week, 8:30 on Saturday at Oregon State.
If you're wondering how I'm going to be for the next 7 days, it's going to be borderline cardiac arrest all day, every day. So that's where I'm at.
And obviously we will be live after ASU's basketball game on Monday. Game is at 7 at home against North Florida. And then on Thursday, we'll be live for that post game as well, 8:30 at San Diego State. And then Saturday for the post game show. Other schedule will be coming out during our live shows next week. Thank you for joining us. As always, you can follow Brittany on Twitter at bboyer07. You can follow me on Twitter at Shane Deef. You can follow our Sun Devils account at PHNX_Sun Devils. You can follow PHNX_sports across all socials, including YouTube. Leave a like and subscribe. Leave a review if you're listening on audio. Britt, what does you have to say?
If you guys think, because I was debating this today, I should change my Twitter handle to @LitWithBritt, you should let me know. And that's all.
Yeah, let her know on Twitter.
I'm debating it.
As I said, at bboyer07. Yep, that is it for tonight. We'll end it on this note. Bobby fucking Hurley. Peace.